Yep. Okay. And we also talked about how to summarize the story. So there were 3 words that we used when we were trying to summarize the story, and that was first, next, and then. So when you're summarizing a story, just remember those are your 3 words that you want to use. And so then today we're going to go on to elements of a story. Has anybody ever heard of elements of a story or anything pertaining to that? No? Okay. So there are 3 elements when you talk about a story. And your first one is main characters, and your second one is setting, and your third one is plot. And plot has 3 parts to it, and it's beginning, middle, and end. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today and what we're going to go into. So first, we are going to watch a video, and it's going to kind of explain what the main characters are, what setting is, and what plot is. And then after we get to about the middle of the video, I'm going to pause it, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to go into great detail. Okay? If y'all want to come sit on the carpet for the video, you can. If you want to stay in your seats, you can do that. It's whichever one y'all want to do. If you want to stay in your seats. Okay.
This video is about the elements of a story. The first element we're going to talk about are the characters. The characters are who or what the story is about. The next element is the setting. The setting is where, like in a store, and when, like on your birthday, a story takes place. The next element are the major events or plot of the story. Generally, things start out okay, but then the character has to overcome some challenge before life returns to normal or almost normal. When we put all of these things together, we create a story. We pick a character, put him in a setting, and give him a challenge or obstacle to overcome.
Okay, so we first talked about main characters. And characters are people, animals, or things that can feel, think, and act. Okay, so when you're thinking about feeling, what does that mean? Like touching things, right? When you think about thinking, you use your brain. And when you think about acting, you do something. You're playing or reading or something like that. So if you think about it, there are different people that can touch, think, and act. There are different animals that can touch, think, and act. And there are different things that can touch, think, and act. So some examples that we have here are the Disney princesses, because I think everybody, especially every little girl, knows about the Disney princesses. And that would be people. And we also have Scooby-Doo, and Scooby-Doo's friends are the people. And then Scooby-Doo would also be a part of the animal section, because he's a dog, so he's an animal. And then in the animal part, we have Max and Ruby. And then we have, I don't know what their names are, but there's a bear and a bunny rabbit and some more bears. And then in things, if you think about it, Woody and Buzz Lightyear from Toy Story are things. They're toys that people play with, but in the movie, and in, I don't know if there's a book or not, but I think there is, in the book, they're things that come to life, and they can feel, think, and act. But this chair cannot feel, think, or act. That cannot do any of those. So it would not be story is where and when the story takes place. So some examples of where a story could take place could be in the jungle, which is pictured right here, in the ocean, in your yard, in the mountains, outside of the school, in a pool, and those are examples of outside places that a setting could take place. Inside places that a setting could take place could be in a fish tank, inside a house, in a classroom, in a gym, in a living room, in the bedroom, and that's a picture of a classroom, and then a picture of a living room. And those would be some examples. Can anybody else give me an example of where a setting could take place?
In a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
At Disney World.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
In a car.
Yep.
At the beach.
Yep. And so then setting also has when the story takes place. So the when could be, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It could be afternoon. It could be bedtime. It could be bath time. It could be any of those. So that would be the when and the where. So then our third element of the story is the plot. And those are the actual events of the story. And in the story, there's the beginning, the middle, and the end. And if you look, it's a roller coaster. So at the beginning, it kind of picks up a little bit. At the middle, it really starts to pick up. And then towards the end, it starts to, wind back down. So in order to summarize your story, you have to include the beginning, the middle, and the end, which is a part of the plot. And I also have the words that we used last week when we talked about summarizing: first, next, and then last. So now let's finish our video and listen to the story and see if we can figure out what the main characters are, where the setting takes place, and then what the plot is.
Here is a story about Ollie. Ollie got a phone call from his friend Janessa. She is in the park and needs help. Ollie hurries to the park to help her. Janessa, what's wrong? Ollie, my cat is stuck in the tree and I can't get him down. What will I do? I can climb the tree and get him down for you. Yay, Ollie, you saved my cat. Thank you. It was nothing. Want to go get some ice cream? Okay. Ollie and Janessa walked off to the ice cream parlor together.
Okay, so I'm going to turn this video off now because we're done with it. So in the video, who were the main characters? And there's one more.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so where was their setting? Where did the story take place?
At the park.
Okay, when do you think it took place? That's the where, but when do you think it was? And you kind of have to guess a little bit with this one because it didn't give you an exact time. But judging by the light outside, when would you say it was?
Daytime.
Yeah, afternoon, could be after lunch. So the plot. So what happened at the very beginning of the story?
Oh my God, a phone call.
From who?
Janessa.
Okay, then what happened?
Ollie rushed to go to the park.
Yeah. Okay. What did Ollie go do at the park?
He helped Janessa get her cat out of the tree.
So that would have been the beginning, and then that would have been the middle, helping her get her cat out of the tree. So finally, at the very end of the story, what did they go do? Yep, they went and got ice cream. So the beginning, Ollie gets a phone call, and Janessa says that she needs help. The middle is when Ollie goes to the park to help get her cat out of the tree. And then the end is when they went to go get ice cream. Okay? So, do we feel a little bit more comfortable going on. Okay, y'all want to come sit on the carpet? We're going to read a story. And then after the story, I'm going to draw a chart on the board, and y'all are going to help me write down what the main characters are, where the setting takes place, and then the plot from first, middle to end. So the story of this, the name of the story is Daniel Plays Ball. Hi neighbor, we are going to play animal ball. Whoever throws the ball picks an animal, and then we all make a sound. You can make the animal sound too. Miss Elena picks a dog. We all say, bark, bark, bark. Miss Elena throws the ball to Prince Wednesday. He catches it. Prince Wednesday picks a cow. We all say, moo, moo, moo. Prince Wednesday throws the ball to me. Grrr, I missed it. Keep trying. You will get better, says Prince Tuesday. Prince Tuesday picks a duck. We all say quack, quack, quack. Prince Tuesday throws the ball to Miss Elena. She catches the ball. Bark, 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 we all say again. Miss Elena throws the ball to me. Grr, I missed it again. Keep trying, you will get better, said Prince Tuesday. Miss Elena throws the ball to me again. I watch the ball, and then I hop the ball. I caught the ball. Nice catch, said Prince Tuesday. I kept trying, and I got better. Is there something you want to do better? If you keep trying, you can get better too. Okay? So, that's Daniel Plays Ball. So, now that I'm going to write this chart, did y'all like the story? The good story? Okay. So, who are our characters? Prince Tuesday?
Elena. Daniel.
Next Wednesday.
That all of them? Who would you say was the most important character in the story? The very main character.
Elena.
Nope, not Elena. Elena was part of the story, but the story wasn't really about her. She wasn't the main focus of the story.
Prince Tuesday.
Nope, he was friends. He was just another friend. So they were a friend. Did you say Prince Wednesday or Tuesday?
Tuesday.
He was a friend, but we didn't get introduced to them until we got to the park. Who was telling the story before we got to the park?
Daniel.
Yeah. So Daniel is our main character. Did everybody get that? Everybody understand that he's the main character? Okay. Now we're going to go to setting. Where did this take place?
Outside.
Okay. Where do you think outside, where do you think they would have been outside?
Playground.
Yeah. A playground or a park? So this is the where. What about the when? probably one of the most difficult things. The plot or the setting one. Okay, what happens at the beginning? What happened at the beginning of the story? You want me to go refresher? Hi neighbor, we are playing animal ball. Whoever throws the ball kicks an animal. Then we all make the sound. You can make the sound too. So what were they doing?
Playing animal ball.
Yeah. So what happened towards the middle of the story? They're playing animal ball. So they're throwing it back and forth. So Miss Elena picks a dog, and they bark. And then she throws the ball to Prince Wednesday, and he picks a cow. And then Prince Wednesday throws the ball to Daniel. But what did Daniel do? Did he catch the ball, or did he drop the ball?
He dropped it.
Yeah. So he kept dropping the ball. So the middle is that Daniel kept dropping the ball. But what did they keep doing? They kept playing, didn't they? They kept throwing it to him. He missed it 3 times, I think. 2 or 3 times. But Prince Tuesday told him to keep trying, that he will get better. So, what did he do at the very end of the story?
He got the ball.
He got it. He got the ball. So then, the end is that he kept trying, and he caught it. Do I have any questions? Anybody confused? Everybody understanding it? Okay, now we're going to go back to our seats, and we're going to do a little guided reading, underlining, kind of fun story. So each person is going to have their own story. And we're going to read the story that's titled A Robot Dog. And as we're reading the story, I'm going to give all of y'all a red, a green, and a blue marker. Okay? If you look up here, we'll do, this is green. Okay? So, when you hear a character, I want you to underline the character in green marker, okay? When we get to talking about the setting, or if you think you hear the setting while we're reading the story, I want you to underline the setting in blue. As we start talking about the plot and what happens at the beginning, the middle, and the end, I want you to try to underline it in red. But I don't want you to underline all of it red. Just what you think is important out of the story. And then after we finish reading it, we'll go back and we'll talk about it. Okay? So let's read it. A Robot Dog by Clark Ness. One day, Andrew and his dog Rocky went for a walk. They walked and walked. After a little bit, they walked past a big tree. Poof! Rocky was a robot dog. Woof woof, barked Rocky the robot dog. What is going on? Asked Andrew. Who turned my dog into a robot dog? Andrew looked all around him. He looked up the street, he looked down the street. He looked behind the street, he looked up into the tree. No one was there. He stopped and stood still. He heard. It came from the tree. Woof, woof, barked Rocky the robot dog at the tree. Andrew looked at the tree. He could not see anything different about his tree. He could not think of what to do. Tree, are you a real tree? Asked Andrew. The tree did not say anything. Rocky the robot dog came over and smelled the tree. Woof, woof, he barked at it again. Andrew was mad. He did not like it that Rocky was a robot dog. Andrew walked over to the tree and tickled it. Stop that, said the tree. Why did you tickle me? I think you turned my dog into a robot dog, said Andrew. Maybe I did and maybe I didn't, said the tree, who was holding his branches in front of himself so that Andrew could not tickle him again. It is kind of funny to see a dog become a robot. Andrew got real mad this time and went up to the tree. He pushed away the tree's branches and tickled him some more. Oh, stop, stop, said the tree. I don't want to be tickled anymore. I still think you turned Rocky into a robot dog, said Andrew, who was about to tickle the tree again. Okay, said the tree. I turned your dog into a robot dog. Just don't tickle me anymore. Well, I don't think it is funny, said Andrew. Now turn Rocky the robot dog back into Rocky the real dog. Okay, said the tree. Poof! Rocky was Rocky the real dog again. Now don't do that anymore, said Andrew. Someone might get mad and tickle you again. You would not like that. Okay, I won't turn dogs into robot dogs anymore, said the tree. Andrew and Rocky walked home. The tree never turned any more dogs into robots, but every now and then Andrew would see a robot butterfly go past his house. Okay. I'm going to write on the board what y'all tell me. Okay? So, who do we think the main characters of this story are?
Andrew.
Okay? Who else? Yep.
Rocky.
Okay. Are there any more? Yep, the tree. Okay. I would say that they're all three main characters. Would y'all not? Would y'all agree? They're all pretty important to the story. So moving on to the setting. Remember, the setting is the where and the when of the story. So, when did this story take place? If we had to guess. They were going for a walk. So, would you go for a walk in the middle of the night? No? Would you get up at like 5 o'clock in the morning and go for a walk? If you're like in middle school or high school? No? So when would you say the story took place? In the afternoon? Lunchtime, evening, something like that? Okay, where? Because remember we have two parts of the setting. Where did the story take place? How does it work?
On the street.
Yeah. They went for a walk, and they went past a big tree. So, and then it said he looked down the street. So I would agree. It was on the street. Everybody else agree? Okay, now, the plot. What happened at the very beginning of the story? Yep. So Andrew and Rocky went for a walk. What happened in the middle of the story? That you're driving down the road with your mom, you drive past a robot dog, what would you do? Probably just stare. You don't know what to do. So Rocky was turned into a robot. Should we put he was turned into a robot by a tree? Do you think? No? You don't, why not?
We didn't find out it was the tree yet.
Okay. So, end. What would the end of the story be?
We just turned back into a dog. A
Mhm.
human dog.
So Taylor, would I put here that he got turned back into a regular dog by the tree? Because we find out that that's who turned him into a robot? Okay. So is this starting to make sense? Starting to understand what's going on? Okay, now we have a pretty fun activity to do. I think it's pretty fun. I'm going to give y'all a shorter story than what we just read. And in your groups of two, you're going to play a game, and it's called Roll and Retell. So I'm going to give each of y'all a story, and it's called Max the Dog. And then I'll take these. You want to give me those papers? I'll take them too. Okay. So with this story, I'll read it out loud, and y'all can read it to yourselves as I read it out loud. And then after we read the story, we're going to play a little game. And with this, these are called a dice, or a die, because there's only one. Would y'all both want a piece of paper, or do you just want to share one? We'll both want one. Okay? So with this, on this sheet of paper, it tells you kind of what you're going to do. So we're going to read the story. After the story, we're going to roll these, but we're going to roll them on our desk. If they start flying everywhere, we're going to put it up, and we'll do something not so much fun, okay? So we're going to roll these on the table, and see, I got a 4, okay? I can tell because of the dots. I find this picture on this piece of paper. So 4, right here, is the 4th one down. This question says, when does the story take place? So, talking to your shoulder partner, you're going to answer the question. You're going to tell them when the story took place. So each of you are going to have to answer 6 questions. Okay? Once you've been through each one of the questions, we'll come back together and we'll kind of talk about the story, and then we'll go on to the next thing we're going to do. Okay? Does everybody understand what we're doing? Okay, let's read the story. Max the dog. Jen has a brown dog. Her dog's name is Max. Max likes to play with the ball. Jen throws the ball, and Max brings it back. Max lies on the bed. This makes Jen's mom mad. She wants Max to lie on the floor. One day, Max got lost. Jen looked all over for him. She walked up the street and down the street. She yelled, "Come home, Max!" She found Max. He was in the park. He was so happy to see Jen. Okay? So that's a shorter story. I think that'll be a little bit easier to understand as y'all do this in partners. So, does everybody understand the story? Do I need to read it again? We're good? Okay. Y'all go ahead and start rolling. I'm going to walk around and listen.
So, at the beginning, Max gets lost, or is Jen playing with it?
Do you have a question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What did you roll? What's your question?
5.
Okay.
What happened at the beginning, middle, and end of the story?
Okay. What do you think happened at the beginning? So the beginning is going to be over here. So Jen has a brown dog. Her dog's name is Max. Max likes to play with the ball. Jen throws the ball. Max brings it back. So at the beginning of the story, I would say Max and Jen are playing with the ball.
Okay.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So then we go to the middle. Max lies on the bed. That makes Jen's mom mad. She wants Max to lie on the floor. So Jen's mom's mad at Max because he's laying on the bed. She wants him on the floor. Okay? Then at the end of the story, one day, Max got lost. Jen looked all over for him. She walked up the street and down the street. She yelled, "Come home, Max." She found Max. He was in the park. He was happy to see Jen. So towards the end, Max ran away, but then Jen found him.
Okay.
Okay? You understand that?
Yep.
Okay.
What questions do you have about the story?
That's a good name.
What happened at the beginning, middle, and end of the story? They were playing ball with the dog. That's the beginning. Can you help me with the middle?
Yeah. Okay. So the middle, we'll say this is the middle section of the story, right?
Yeah.
So Max lies on the bed. This makes Jen's mom mad. She wants Max to lay on the floor.
Yeah.
So what happened? Jen's mom's mad
Because he laid on the bed.
and not the floor. Okay? So then that would be the middle. Okay?
Okay.
What about the end?
The end, Max goes missing and they find him at the park.
Mm-hmm. So happily ever after, right? Which ones haven't you done?
I think we did all of them.
You done all of them? Okay. How many more do y'all have?
This is the last one.
Okay.
It's about Max and Jen, and Max gets lost.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Does everybody understand? I know we had a little bit of trouble with the beginning, the middle, and the end, and telling which part was the beginning, which part was the middle, and which part was the end. But I think I helped kind of both groups understand it. Do you still have questions about any of this part of the story? So who are our main characters?
Jen and Max.
Mm-hmm. Okay? Jen's the person, and Max is the dog, right? Okay? So the setting. Where would you say the setting was in the beginning of the story? If they're playing ball, do you think that they're going to be playing ball inside the house? I don't think Mom would be very happy if they broke something. Did you say they're outside? Maybe in the backyard? Okay, so at the beginning, they're outside playing. In the middle, Max is laying on the bed. So where would you say they were? Where do beds usually?
In the bedroom.
Yeah, in the bedroom. Okay, and then at the end, where did Max go? What happened? He got lost, didn't he? Where did we find him?
In the park.
Yeah, found him in the park. Okay? Does everybody kind of understand that a little bit? Do you feel comfortable enough to do something by yourself? or do we still have some questions? If you still have questions, I'll be walking around while we do this, and you can ask me one-on-one, so you don't have to ask me for the whole class, okay? So, now I'm going to give you a story. I'm going to take these up first. Okay, so now we have another pretty short story. And what I want you to do is I'll read through the story with you, and then you can read back through it if you need to, or I can come over and help you. But I want everybody to read this, and then after you read it, I'm going to give you a worksheet. And on this little worksheet, it's got blocks. Okay? On the blocks, there's characters, there's the setting, and then there's what happened at the beginning, the middle, and the end. So I want you to fill in who the main characters were, what you think the setting is, and then what you think happens at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story. Okay? You can do it, you can fill it out as I read it, or you can wait until after I'm done reading it. Do y'all need markers? Y'all need markers, pens? Yeah? Okay. Do you need a pen? Okay, so let's read this story. It's called The Pumpkin Patch. Zach went on a trip with his class. He got on a yellow bus. It took them to the pumpkin patch. When he got off the bus, he got to pick a pumpkin. He looked and looked. He picked one, but it was too big. He had to pick a little one. He got back on the bus and went back to his class. He wished he had a big pumpkin. Okay, so does everybody know what they're doing? Does anybody need help? And if you would, put your name in the very top corner. Don't forget that the setting has two parts to it. The setting is not only where the story takes place, but it's also when the story takes place. Okay? Okay, about one more minute, and then we're going to talk about the story together. Alright, eyes up, pencils down when you're done, so that I know you're done, okay? If you're not done, keep going. But if you're done, put your pencils down and your eyes up. Okay? Is everybody done? Okay. So, the name of this is the pumpkin patch, right? So what is that? When you hear that, what does that make you think? Makes you think we're going to be in the pumpkin patch, right? Okay. Main characters. Who are the main characters of the story? Or main character? Yeah. Just that, right? It's the only one that the story really talks about? Okay. Going on to the setting. When does this story take place? Tyler?
In the day.
Yeah, during the day. You think it's sunny outside? Probably. I don't think you'd want to go to a pumpkin patch when it's raining. Or when it's snowing. I don't think there are pumpkin patch when it's snowing, right? Okay. Okay, so that's the when. Where does this story take place?
The pumpkin patch.
Yeah. At the beginning of the story, where does it take place there?
In the classroom.
No? Tyler?
School bus.
Yeah. They got on the school bus before they came out to the classroom at the end of the day, afterwards. So that would be the end. So at the beginning, they got on the yellow bus, then they went to the pumpkin patch, and then they went back to the classroom. So there's 3 different parts of the where in the setting, okay? So plot. What happened at the very beginning of the story?
They got on the bus.
Okay? Where were they going?
Pumpkin patch.
Yeah. So at the beginning, they got on the school bus to go to the pumpkin patch, right? Okay? What about the middle?
Zach was trying to find a home.
Yeah. He was looking for a pumpkin, but all he could find was big ones. And he couldn't really carry a big one back on the school bus. Because I'm sure he had to sit with somebody on the school bus. I'm sure they had to get little ones. They didn't have room for big pumpkins, right? Okay? So at the end, what happened at the end of the story?
He got back on the bus.
Yeah, he got back on the bus and they went back to the classroom. But what did he wish he had? Yeah, he wished he would have gotten a big pumpkin. Do y'all like the little teeny tiny pumpkins or do y'all like the big pumpkins? I think I would like the big pumpkins too. Okay, so just to go back over one more time, we're going to talk about main characters, the setting, the plot. Okay? So, what are each of these 3 things? What do they make up? Okay.
Elements.
The elements of the story, right? Okay? So, give me an example of a main character that we talked about today. Megan, can you give me an example? Remember, she wasn't a main character, she was just a character. A main character is mainly what the story is about. The person that the story focuses on. Okay?
Andrew.
Yeah. Andrew was a main character. Taylor, can you give me another example of somebody that we talked about?
Daniel.
Daniel's another main character. Okay? So then, remember, that's people, animals, or things. If it can feel, think, or act, it's going to be a main character. It's going to be a character in a story. Okay? Remember our princesses? Our Max and Ruby? And Buzz and Woody? Okay? The setting, the where, and the when the story takes place. So, Jody, give me an example of one of our settings today.
In the park.
Yeah. Tyler, can you give me an example of one of the settings that we talked about today?
On the street.
Yeah, on a street. And then we've got to remember that where is a big important factor, but when is also a very important factor. So, when were they on the street?
In the day.
Yeah, in the afternoon. Okay? And then finally, the plot. And those are all of the events in the story. The beginning, the middle, and the end. Okay? Remember, when you have to summarize, you want to talk about the beginning of the story, the middle of the story, and the end of the story. And you want to use words like first, next, last, or first, next, then, any of those. Okay? Does anybody have any questions about anything we talked about today? No? No questions? We all feel pretty comfortable with it? Yeah?